Ben Affleck has had a career that spans over 40 years, but it hasn't been without its fair share of blunders, starting with the movie that he said he outright hated working on. To no one's surprise, it's the Daredevil movie. Released in 2004, this movie was based on a Marvel comic book and has continued to be the bane of Ben's existence for the past 18 years. In the movie, Affleck plays the role of Matt Murdock. He's a blind lawyer who lives in New York and has a double life. As both a lawyer and a masked vigilante called Daredevil, Matt finds it tough to hide his secret identity as his personal life becomes increasingly complicated. Things get even worse when his girlfriend's father gets targeted by a crime boss named Kingpin. From the looks of it, the movie has everything you'd need to make a decent superhero movie, at least by 2004 standards. The film was released back when the original superhero craze was at its peak. No, I'm not talking about the MCU and Avengers, but rather the 2000s comic book adaptations, mainly Blade and the X-Men series. And honestly, the early 2000s style really does drip from every corner of this movie. From the moody tone to the nu metal soundtrack, this is a movie that wasn't received that well on release and has aged to become even worse. The whole style of the movie is incredibly outdated, mixing its seemingly darker visuals with corny dialogue and poor stunt work. There's some decent chemistry between Affleck and Garner, but other than that, Ben really does stick out like a sore thumb in this movie, and it seems that he's aware of this fact. The actor stated that it's the only movie he regrets making. Ben has mentioned before that Daredevil just kills him inside, because he's a fan of the story and the character, but the way the movie just managed to get completely screwed up is something that stays with him and continues to haunt him so many years down the line. In fact, Ben was so disappointed with how the film turned out that he outright promised that he wouldn't appear in a superhero movie ever again. He felt embarrassed to even wear a superhero costume because it reminded him of the colossal disaster that was the Daredevil film. He did eventually go back on this and once again wore a superhero costume. This time taking on the role of an equally dark and brooding character, Batman. Affleck appeared as the Caped Crusader numerous times, starting with Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which was released in 2016. He then appeared in the role once more in 2017. In the Justice League, and then one final time in 2021 when Snyder released his very own cut of the Justice League movie. Ben stated that one of the reasons he appeared as Batman was to get over the disappointment that Daredevil left behind, though his time as Batman hasn't been the best either. While it wasn't nearly as bad as Daredevil, his interpretation of Batman leaves much to be desired. It isn't the actor who's at fault, but rather the director he was working with. Zack's take on the Justice League and his understanding of the DC characters is completely messed up to the point where most of his DC movies were bound to fail. He doesn't understand the gist of most of these characters and what makes them such interesting superheroes in the first place. That's why you have a Superman who isn't a symbol of hope, but rather a menacing tyrant in his movies. It's also why you have Batman that goes around outright murdering people without dealing with the moral consequences of breaking his one and only rule. Affleck does try to salvage the role as best he can with his acting and performance, but when the script is that bad, it's hard to do much. In 2016, when Batman v Superman was released, it got a ton of negative reviews. 2017's Justice League was also universally panned by both critics and audiences, although that may be due to the fact that it had to deal with reshoots and other issues. Affleck may have one final shot at redeeming his Batman character. He's set to appear in the upcoming The Flash movie. Muschietti has talked about how Ben's return will play a huge role in the movie and will be what makes the film have an emotional impact. Mostly, while his role as Batman wasn't the best, it seems Ben does view it in a somewhat positive light. light. He stated that if he thought the result would be another Daredevil, then he'd be out there picketing himself. He doesn't want to make a movie that he didn't think was going to be good. Plus, he only works on projects where he knows he's performing well. That's partly why he hates Daredevil as much as he does. He knows the faults the movie's had and in a way wants to go back and redo it once more so that it can be done in the right way. Luckily for Affleck, that's sort of already been done. The Daredevil franchise was given an overhaul thanks to Netflix's masterpiece of a show, which was helmed by Charlie Cox. With that version of Daredevil now joining the MCU, it seems that the character has a dazzling future ahead of him, but it's unlikely that Ben will be involved with it, and that's probably for the best. Though that doesn't mean that there isn't any space for Ben in the MCU. With the Snyderverse officially dead and buried, it's possible that Ben may want to continue his tradition of doing superhero films, despite promising not to ever do them again. A Marvel insider recently even stated that Affleck could play Dario Agger in a future movie. This is all just rumors and speculation at this point, but it could give the actor a time to truly shine in a superhero role, something he's yet to do in his career.
Can one man make a difference? There are days when I believe, and others when I have lost all faith.
That said, some fans think that Ben could even return to his original Daredevil role as a variant of Matt Murdock. We saw in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness how Professor X existed in the MCU, hailing from a reality where the X-Men existed. And now, we've also got Deadpool and Wolverine joining the MCU with Deadpool 3. So, it may be possible to do a version of the character that exists alongside Cox's Daredevil, but considering how popular Charlie's iteration of the superhero is, it's doubtful that Disney would want to pair it alongside one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Plus, Cox is getting his very own Disney Plus series already, meaning it's unlikely that Ben will get a chance to play Daredevil, but that only goes to increase his chances of appearing as Dario Agger. According to My Time to Shine Hello, a fairly notable Marvel insider revealed that Ben was actually in talks to play the MCU villain at one point. As per the insider, Ben could appear in Captain America: New World Order in this new role. Dario, also known as the Minotaur, is the president of Roxxon Energy. Because of this, a role in that film would be the most fitting place to add a villain like this. The movie is rumored to have 5 villains, so it'd make sense for Dario to be along the ensemble of baddies. That said, taking this with a grain of salt is highly recommended, but it does go to show that there may be a future for Ben in the world of superhero films still. Anyway, what do you think of Ben Affleck's biggest career mistake, the Daredevil movie? See you in the next one.